Hey, this is Michael Prasad with Church Brand Guide. I'm here with Brandon Serig.
Glad to be with you guys today. It's going to be a lot of fun. We got something great to talk about.
This is where we serve as your virtual communications director, providing communication strategy because we believe that confusion is the enemy of your vision. Today we're going to jump into this idea of a communications grid. I know that sounds a little bit geeky, so I came up with that title. Hope you don't mind. Brandon, can you explain
To
what's
put it
going-
in pastor terms, like this is how you're going to plan and execute an event and what you're going to do after that event. But if you are smarter than guys like me, you might call it a church event promotional grid.
There you go. What he said. That's great. Big idea behind this grid is to just help you understand how do you communicate really well about your event that's happening. So here's the problem that I've seen before. I'm working within a church staff or with a church, and we are maybe 2 weeks away from an event, and we're like, oh man, we should probably do something. Christmas is coming up. What a surprise! And so we rush and we put something together. I don't know if you've ever been there before. Brandon, have you ever been there before?
I know even at Christmas time in my personal finances, Christmas comes every December and we're always surprised by it in December. And I think in church world, it's pretty true. Like, oh man, we just got done with the January series. Easter's in like 8 weeks. Aren't we supposed to like have the mailer already ready? What are we gonna do?
Right. So we just believe that there's a better way to do this. That Christmas comes about January, no, not December 25th, right?
Every year.
Yeah. So let's just make sure we take advantage of that, along with any other event that you have at your church. So we're going to walk you through this grid, and this grid is going to help you hopefully plan ahead so you can maximize your event. So at the very beginning, there's a time where we were just asking some very key questions, and we're talking about 8 to 10 weeks out. So don't freak out on me there. I said 8 to 10 weeks out before the event, we want to start thinking about that event. So we want to ask questions like, what is the win for this event? Brandon, why is that important to know?
Well, I want to say it like this. I love Charlie Brown cartoons, and one of my favorite cartoons that he has is Charlie's out behind the house, and he's got a bow and arrow, and he starts shooting arrows at the fence, and then he goes and he draws the target around the arrow wherever it hits. And Lucy shows up and says, "Charlie Brown, what's wrong with you? Why don't you just draw the one target and try to hit that target?" And he's like, "Well, this way I get hit the bullseye every time." And I think in church world, that's what we kind of do sometimes. We get someone that shows up to our event, they're like, "Pastor, that was amazing. That was the best sermon I think I've ever heard." Or someone's like, "You know what? This was great. My 5-year-old gave his life to Jesus." Well, if this is a student event that's designed for teenagers and the 5-year-old receives Jesus, is that a win? Sure, but was that what the event was designed for? Probably not. So I think the clarity is, instead of drawing an arrow and drawing a target around it, I think that God wants us to draw a target and try to hit it. What really is the win of Easter? What do we want to have happen? What is the win of like a Christmas Eve service? What do people experience? And the greater clarity we have on the front end of what that win is, the greater clarity we can have on the back end. That way we're not just shooting arrows and saying, "Hey, we hit the target."
So just to kind of set things up, I'm with a agency background. I've been working with churches and companies and helping design brand and just graphic design and websites and all those type of things. Brand is really coming from a pastor background where he's been in ministry for how long?
I've been in ministry for about 14 years. I've helped with a church plant. I helped in a church that's been around for 25 years, kind of go through like a rebrand. Then I've been part of a church like in their adolescent years on their executive team. And I've been kind of all over in the church. I've served with kids, I've served with teenagers, I've served with weekend teams, audiovisual lighting. I've served on events, I've preached messages, you name it in church world. I've been on the setup team. I've been on the worship team with a microphone off. Like, I feel like I've served pretty much everywhere on a church team.
So I've been working with pastors for a long, long time on staff and even as a contractor brought in. So my hope is to give voice to your communications director or your designer or the agency you might have hired so that you can know, like, what are we thinking? So when I said 8 to 10 weeks out, man, that if you can give us that time, to really do what we do, I guarantee you're going to get some really great results. Like, you're going to get some designs and some marketing strategies that are just going to be amazing, versus what is regular in our world is that we just get a couple days or a couple weeks to think through things. So do the best that you can, and give us that win. Give us that clear goal so that we know what to shoot for in our promotions and as we're planning and executing the promotions for the event. Who is the target audience? So that's another big one. We just want to know, who do we design everything around? Is it the young adult? Is it a young adult event? Maybe it's for a young family. Maybe it's for a teenager. We just want to know, like, as we design things, who do we need to target? Because everyone's not a target. That starts to look pretty crazy once everyone becomes a target.
Yeah, I think it's just key to understand what you're trying to do. And I think when you understand your win, it's easier to understand who you're actually trying to reach in this event. And if you're doing something like Easter or Christmas, obviously everyone's welcome. But from a marketing standpoint, you hit a greater audience when you can say, this piece of mail that we're going to send out, it's designed for people between the ages of 35 and 55 who have kids. And just that level of clarity, again, the 6-year-old might get that in the mail and they're going to come to your church, and that's a great opportunity. But who's it designed for? Because if you're designing it for anyone, the teenager's not going to like it, the young adult's not going to like it, the parent's not going to like, no one's going to like it because it wasn't designed for them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times we find that pastors really struggle when we ask, hey, what's the target audience? They feel like they're saying no, but that's not really what we're asking. It's not that we're saying no to anybody. Like, everybody's welcome. If you're breathing, you're welcome to this event. We're just saying, like, as we communicate and design, we just need some direction to know who's the ideal person for this event. How does the event support the mission or the vision of the church? I can't tell you how many times we've come across an event idea and we're trying to promote it, but then it doesn't fit like the church. It's just an idea that they grab from somewhere and they're like, hey, let's go try this. And man, it doesn't fit the church. So the results aren't going to happen after the event. Like, the purpose of the event is to have some growth of some kind take place. Yeah. And if it doesn't fit up with the culture of the church, then we find that, man, the church really struggles to make the best, like, they don't win.
Yeah, I think we want to be learning as pastors all the time, where we want to be humbled enough to learn from other churches, but if we take the what they do and we don't have the same why they do it, we're not going to get the same results. Like, I meet pastors all the time, they're like, I tried it, but it didn't work. Well, the reason it didn't work is you did everything that they did except for the key most important thing, which is know why you're going to do this thing at all. So whatever you do within the context of your church, it needs to fit within your vision. So if your vision is local outreach and you're serving your community, going to Africa might not serve that vision very well. But if you're all about foreign missions, the local outreach might not fit as well. And if you're about young families, having a solid ministry that's highly funded to senior adults might not fit your vision.
Yeah, and we want to be successful. Like, as a communications person, like, I want to win. Like, and I want to know that I'm helping you to win. So if you can give me that clarity of, like, man, this really supports our vision in this way, then it's going to help you as a church leader, as a pastor, or if you're a communications director that's out there. Man, make sure you're getting people to tie into the actual mission of the church, and man, it'll be good for everybody. What's the call to action? So a lot of times, we need to determine ahead of time, like, what is the one thing that we want people to do when they get this promotion? Seems like a very simple idea, but I can't tell you how many times we've missed that.
I think it's easy to just skip right over this, because if the event was just to get a bunch of people to show up and a bunch of people show up, we just kind of like drew the target around it. But I don't think as a church, especially as a pastor, like, we're not called to just draw crowds. We're called to disciple people. And when we answer this question in a healthy way that looks into the whole strategy of the church, if we're going to do this big event, it needs to help people get plugged in here, because that's going to help them become more of a disciple of Jesus, which is what we're ultimately called to.
So there's two calls to actions that we're talking about. The promotion itself needs a call to action. Do you go online to come and attend this event? You sign up online. Do you just show up at the event? You have to pay $5 for the event? Like, it has to be a very clear call to action that we can put on all the promotions, on the screen, on the postcard, on social media. Like, what is that clear call to action? The event itself should also have a call to action, which is what Brandon was talking about. Where what's the next step? Like you come to this event, it's a Christmas event. Like what's the next step? Is it the next series? Is it like some sort of growth pathway? What's the next thing? Also, we want to ask this question at the very, very beginning as we're planning things. We want to ask, how will we follow up with the attendees after the event? So we just want to make sure that we have a great follow through with the event. It's not just about a big hype, to just have something blow up and then like you don't get results afterwards. There should be some benefits that happen to the church after this event. We just want to make sure we're asking that question ahead of time.
I think it's just so important for us to be thinking about as pastors. If we do a large marriage event and we know that there's going to be marriages there that are struggling, we need to make sure that one of those calls to action is that we have some follow-up opportunities for people who are struggling in their marriage, either for counseling or a small group for those kinds of marriages, as well as marriages that are healthy. How do we keep them healthy? How do we thank a guest for just coming? Do we just invite them to the next event? And depending on the kind of event that you're doing is really going to help you determine what your follow-up, because again, we're not trying to just draw a crowd. We just believe that people matter. And because people matter, we want to help them take next steps, knowing that they're not going to take giant leaps. So one of the conversations we had today on our way to lunch was, what is the call to action in Easter? Is it a small group? For someone that only comes to church twice a year, it's a hard ask for them. Hey, on Thursday night, we want you to go and share your stuff at someone else's house with people you don't know. Like, it's probably not the right call to action. But the right call to action might be, come on Sunday next week to our big series that's going to help you take your next step in your journey.
Yeah, very good. So let's ask that question well ahead of time. So we're talking about 8 to 10 weeks out. We are literally scheduling a meeting on the calendar so that the communications people can meet with the pastor or the department head. And we're just talking through these questions so that we have plenty of time to come up with a great strategy so that we can execute a great promotion and a great event. Go ahead.
And by the way, for those of you that are watching this video in the month of September, 10 weeks from Christmas is the end of September. So like mid to the end of September, this is very timely. You should be scheduling your meeting for Christmas right now with these questions in mind.
Some other very technical questions are like, hey, what are the types of promotions that we need? Is it video, web promotions, digital media, printed banners, anything like that? We just want to create a punch list so that we can take care of that really well. We can also know like what are the details, times and locations and all those little details. We want to collect that. That way we can come up with a great message that makes that inviting. So again, 8 to 10 weeks out, this is the stuff we want to make sure we figure out. When the promotions are happening, we just want to make sure we have a punch list of all the printed items that need to be done, because printed stuff needs to go off to the printer, get back, and be installed in time. So we just want to make sure about 3 to 4 weeks out, and that's our recommendation for starting promotions. People come to church about twice a month on average, so we just want to start promotions about maybe 4 weeks out. I feel is a great rhythm for most churches. If you're a smaller church, maybe a little bit smaller time frame, like 3 weeks, but we feel like 4 weeks is a good time frame.
Yeah, and there to pastors to serve your creative team well. The further out you plan these things and you can give them direction for design, the more opportunity you have to request some changes. Where if you're asking them 2 weeks in advance for the logo for Christmas because the mailer needs to go out tomorrow, their ability to create just gets tighter. And the sooner you can think ahead or set an assistant that serves on your team to schedule these things for you, the more creativity your team can have and the better results that you're going to get. And then for you, you can give that feedback earlier in the process to get the creative energy out of your team that you need, as well as the look that's really going to serve you as a local church.
So let's make sure we also plan the day of the event really well with great hospitality, a clear call to action to the next step after the event. We talked about that earlier. Make sure you capture information for new people that are coming. The events are really designed to get people gathered together. So make sure you're taking advantage of new people and put them into your system so you can follow up really well with them. Capture video and photography if at all possible. It's great to have that on hand, maybe for promoting the event next year, or even just showing the life of the church on social media. Make sure you capture that. Social media posts as well, make sure you take advantage. Maybe it's a Facebook Live, Maybe you could just post after the event some pictures of what just happened on Instagram. But be creative with social media. Use the event, leverage it as much as you possibly can on all different types of media so that you're getting the word out there and you're sharing it. It's kind of like when you have a birthday party, you just let everybody know, hey, we just had a great time at our church.
And I think this is key to have the plan ahead of time and to have the team in place. That you're getting the right person capturing your photography. Because if you were to give me the camera, I might be really willing to do it, but that doesn't mean I have any idea what I'm doing. However, if you ask me to manage hospitality and make sure that those interactions are good, that sets the whole team up for success. So assign people not to where the need is, but where their strengths lie, and that will help the day of event go off really well.
So here's a great tip. About 48 hours after the event, have an evaluation. Just sit down with the team and just evaluate. Go through that punch list, those questions that we talked about originally, revisit those. Was the win achieved? Did everything go as planned? What didn't go as planned? How do we follow up with the attendees? Like make sure that's a great win for you guys. And then create any notes for next time. So next year when the event comes around, you've got a great list of things to kind of make sure you keep in mind for the next time. And then about 1 week after the event, just make sure you celebrate. Make sure you celebrate with your team to help you pull it off. Celebrate with the church, any great successes that if anybody got saved, if somebody, whoops. Make sure you celebrate about 1 week after the event. Make sure you let the church know and be a part of that celebration so that they can jump in and just know that, man, we're succeeding, we're winning as a church. Have a way to celebrate after that event.
Yeah, and just one thought about the evaluation. Remember, we're evaluating according to the win that was already determined, not necessarily the new win. So I just want to encourage you, you can do this. If you follow this really simple plan, this could really help you pull off great events that produce kingdom fruit.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Let's do that last part with this again, one more time, because that phone.
Sounds good. So just remember this. We're called to predetermine what that win's going to be because people matter. And we're going to evaluate according to the things that we're called to do. Because we're not called to just draw crowds. We're called to make disciples. And this is just a step in the event process to make it happen. I just want to encourage you, you can do it. Follow this simple grid and we can help you take those next steps. Don't do it alone.
Hey, and just a quick reminder, as a communications guy, creative guy, I want to help you as a pastor to succeed. And the more you can help me, the more I can help you succeed. So thanks for joining us, and hopefully this grid helps you out, and we'll see you next time.